Funding for Building New York is provided by First American Title Insurance Company of New York.
Welcome to Building New York. My name is Michael Stoller. 20 years ago, a 26-year-old Israeli with $600 in his pocket decides to come to America. A graduate of Tel Aviv University with a history major decides that from watching the movie Animal House, he felt that perhaps college life for his master's would be great at NYU. 20 years later, this individual, a friend, presently controls 2,000 apartments in Manhattan, retail, which includes movie theaters, garages, and other facilities, whose real estate is worth over $1 billion at retail, and under conversion, probably $2.5 billion. I'm very happy to welcome today Ofer Yardeni, the managing director and co-founding partner of Stonehenge Partners, to my show. So Ofer, my question was, why'd you come to New York? I mean, you came out of the Army, and in the Army, what were you doing in the Army? Tell my guests a little bit about your background and how you grew up.
I grew up like most of the Israelis, have a great childhood, went to the Israeli Army, and I was enough fortunate in the Israeli Army to be a tour guide.
You were a tour guide?
Yeah.
I always tell everybody that you were a helicopter pilot, or... You know.
I look like a helicopter pilot or a parachuter, but to be candid, I was a tour guide, and I was in charge of a lot of visitors from around the world that came to Israel, delegation, and I used to take them all over the country.
And one of them was even Caspar Weinberg.
Yeah, one of them was even Caspar Weinberger, and people from Africa that came, and I took them all over the country.
So you leave the Army.
Yes.
And then you enroll in Tel Aviv.
I enrolled to Tel Aviv University in the program, the history program. And I studied there for 3 years, of which those years were quite a lot of fun. I always thought that I'm going to be a professor. And it was quite natural for me to be and study history about what happened in the Middle East and around the world, and I was fascinated by history and philosophy.
And your father was worked in the tool business, right?
My father was a steel worker, a great father, always tried to provide the best, and he worked in a factory, very hard labor, intense, and my mother was an English teacher, teachers in universities or in school where I lived in Bat Yam. But my memories from Israel are always great.
So it's July of '86.
Yes.
You have $600 in your pocket that your dad...
It's a lot of money.
You had a lot of money. And you come to New York City knowing really no one, except for some people you met in tours.
Yeah, I knew several people as a tour guide, and I was also a counselor in the Tel Aviv University. And during the summer, I used to take groups from Hadassah and other organizations that came from Israel. And in one of the tours, I met a girl, and I stayed in touch with her for 3, 4, 5 years. And when I landed in the United States, the idea was to go to school at NYU and to have a relationship with her, and things developed from them.
So wait, you came here. Where'd you live? I mean, you didn't really know anybody. You didn't go to Brighton Beach. You didn't go. You lived in Manhattan.
No, yes.
You were Chanaka.
I think that I think that honestly, when I look at my life, I think that I'm like Forrest Gump, and I tend to say it because I did a lot of things in my life that really I didn't have anything to do to them. It like my life went from one place to another, and it's funny when you look at it. So when I landed in the United States with $600 and I came, my first apartment in New York as an immigrant was at 737 Park Avenue, 71st and Park.
Not a bad location.
Not a bad location.
That was
not
finding the right girl in the colleges.
I found the right girl, but I didn't even know about Park Avenue, and I didn't even know about New York. And she was quite rebellious, so money was for her an issue, and she never paid attention to money.
So in September of '86,
Yes.
you enroll at NYU
Yes.
for a master's in history.
I want master in history and Middle Eastern studies. And really, the idea why I went to NYU, as you said, my idea of the America school was the movie Animal House. And when I was
Were you Joe Belushi?
I was a kind of a John Belushi, you know. Although I was always behind the scenes in Israel, but I was definitely a funny guy, a troublemaker, and a party goer. So when I saw the movie Animal House, and I was in Tel Aviv University, and I said to myself, wow, that's where I want to go to school. That's where I want to do my master and PhD, because honestly, I didn't want to go to work. I felt very young, and I came here with the idea that to be in New York City, to live the life of the way I saw it in the movie, it looked very, very good to me.
6 months later, you realize that you don't want to be a student anymore?
Yeah, it was quite depressing, I might say. Not that NYU did not provide the best education, but the fact that when I came to my first class, I saw that we are only 3 students in the class, and the professor said, instead of being in class, let's go to my house and we study in my home. So now I lost all the idea of the Animal House. I lost all the idea of interaction in the university, and the worst, I had to study because the professor had asked the question, so I knew that there is 33% chance that he'll ask me. So I had to really study. So I decided that really it is not for me, and maybe I need a break. And
then you go to work in the tool business?
Yes, with my English and with my knowledge of tool.
And your ability, I know you were very mechanical.
Yes, with my knowledge, exactly, you know, I don't think I can even change a light bulb. But I found a job in the tool business in a company by the name Toolarama, and I was working there in advertising, and it didn't work for a long time, and I stayed there for a few months, and after that I was really looking for something else to do because I really wanted to stay in the country. I enjoyed living in New York, in the United States.
But what did you know about the real estate business? You know, how do you know anything about real estate? I know that this young lady who introduced you to 737 Park Avenue, her family was involved with the real estate business. But you said everybody around you was in real estate.
To be candid with you, Michael, I didn't know anything about real estate. And in life in Israel, we don't know about real estate because we own our homes, nobody rents, so we are not used to the way real estate is in the United States. But coming to the United States and living here and seeing all the skyscrapers and seeing the architecture of the building, opening the New York Times in the morning, looking at the Post, looking at every magazine, you become obsessed with real estate. And I really think that the national sport in New York is not the Yankee, the Jets, the Mets, or the Giants. It's really real estate.
But you see, it's like monopoly. You trade. Like in New York, you trade real estate, right?
You trade when you own. You own. The good stuff, you keep. And some stuff that you decide, you also trade. But to go back to your question, why did I go to real estate? Whenever I went out, every person that I met was in real estate. Every girl that I took for a date her parents were in real estate. If I went to Stamford, Connecticut, if I went to the Hamptons, if I went in the city, I saw people are talking about real estate and they are living like in the movies. For me, it was like looking at the movies. And I said, wow, if it's good for them, I should try it. So I went and I decided to go to study the brokerage business and to be a broker.
And your first job was with LBK.
LBK was my first job. I went to an interview with a great lady, Liza Piri, and it was like we were having a dance the way the interview went.
Now, were you selling apartments, or were you renting stores? You were doing what? You were investment sales?
I really decided from the beginning, because I knew my personality is that I really didn't care if people like me or not. I said I want to get in real estate because I can add value. That was the key for me. So I said that I'll get very frustrated selling apartments and showing the kitchen or the bathroom or the living room. Not that this is not a great...
Especially a man who has 2,000 apartments today.
Yes. But it's a great skill. But I wanted to go to the investment side. I wanted to sell apartment buildings, development side, because I saw myself that one day, I knew that one day I will own something. Did I ever think that I will own what I own today? No way.
So how long did it take you to sell your first property? And do you remember the first property that you sold?
I remember starting in LBK, and it took me, I think after 2 weeks, I almost sold the property on 6th Street to Peter Jacobson. And it was for $630,000. And I was very frustrated, but the deal didn't go through. But my first transaction took me after a year, and I sold it.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
You're at LBK. You're a commission person.
Yes.
How were you paying the bills?
You know, my father always said to me that if you have good friends, you can never be poor. And I had a friend, Howard Kirsch, I still have him. He lent me $4,000. I had another friend, Flo Tauber, that I knew the family, that I used to go to eat in their house. And I used to come, I knew the hours when she was cooking. So I used to pass by her house, and of course she saw me on 85th Street, and she used to invite me, she and her husband there, Barry Goldsmith, they used to invite me for dinner. So I ate there. They also lent me like $18,000 to live. Friends from Israel lend me like $12,000-$15,000.
So you have the money to support you.
Yes.
9 months later, a year later, you sell your first property. You then change.
And I sell it to a guy that really helped me later. I sell it to Eric Javits was involved in the sale. He was the lawyer. And I sold it to his nephew. It was on 10th Street in the East Village. And so by selling this property, I met several important people in the real estate.
You stayed at LBK, and then you went where, to Quantum?
I went to Quantum Realty, of which in my mind, it was young. That was the animal house that I was looking for. That was like the John Belushi. I had a few guys there. There was Greg Schenker, that was, and still a great real estate guy, Oren Portnoy, Jack Schenker, and we were all maybe 28, 29, not married, single. Peter Amaruso worked with us. We were partying every night, drinking, and trying to make a living. And when you are so young, you don't need a lot of money.
So how do you make the decision no longer to sell, to go in and to buy your first property? At this time, you were married.
I got married in 1989.
To a woman you met at LBK?
To a woman that I met at LBK, yes. In fact, she came and she sat next to me one time, and this is how the relationship all started. And I always wanted to buy. And I think that one of the guys that really helped me a lot was later my partner, Joel Seiden, that he used to own a building, and in his mind he knew that the equity, this is the place to go. And I was always afraid in a way to jump to the first deal, but I I knew that when the time would be right and I'll have the money, I would be able to do that.
So when was the first deal?
The first deal really, it didn't happen one deal, it happened like 2 or 3 deals
Right,
at
but
the
the
same
first
time.
deal you were telling me about yesterday.
The first deal really that I signed a contract was a property at 230 West 72nd.
230 West
240.
240 West.
240. It's between Broadway and West End.
What
It's
year was this?
1994, when real estate was not in fashion. And whenever I went to a party, everybody felt bad at me that I'm in the real estate.
And you were telling me you had to put a $20,000 deposit, and you and Sherry's total life savings at that time was $25,000.
I think it was 25,000, and I think Sherry didn't know exactly how much money we had in the bank, but I went and I put a deposit on a very complicated deal. It was in bankruptcy in 2 states, in New York and in Houston. And my lawyer, let him rest in peace, Nat Hannon, yelled at me that I should never, never, never buy this building. But I figured that I have $20,000. If I lose it, it's not the end of the world. But I liked the property very much. Radio Shack was a tenant on the ground floor, and I knew that what I can do with this building. So I signed a contract, and it took me a year to close to go.
And how much was the... You bought this building
For $425,000. $425,000.
So in 1994, you buy this building for $425,000.
Yes.
And you also bought another building a couple months later.
I bought the building together with Joel and my financial institution, my partner, Caisse de Depot. We bought the building, Wesley Tower, and immediately we changed it to Stonehenge Tower. And that was January 13, 1995.
And that was at 400 West 56th Street, right?
No, this was on 89th Street. Oh. 89, it was 150 units, and we bought it for $8.8 million.
Okay, the first building you bought for $425,000?
Yes.
And you sold it for what?
I sold it a year and a half ago for $3.5 million.
And the building on 89th Street?
The building on 89th Street, we still own.
You paid $8.8 million?
8.8. But the reason why I sold the first building, there was a decision why to go to sell it. Usually people are very, very attached to their building, and I hear always stories that we never want to sell. I look at the real estate as a commodity. And it's true that 5 years ago, I looked at it, I was maybe more in love. But today, I think that I look at it as a commodity that it's like stocks, like any other vehicle. And I made the decision to sell this building, one, for a proof for myself that I'm not attached, that I can sell. And second, I wanted to show to the people that work with me in my organization that we don't fall in love with a building. If a building has to produce, and a building we have to look at how much time we spent on a building. But I must tell you that even after I sold my first building, I think the day after I called the broker, Roberto Ortiz, and asked him if I can buy the building again. Because still it's emotion, still we like the buildings that we do, and we try to take it as every building like a child.
Would you say then it's 1996?
Yes.
And you found the property on Astor Place?
Yes, I think you were involved in that
Yes,
deal
I was
too.
involved with it, unfortunately, yes. But for me, not fortunately for you.
Yes.
And you bought this property and you flipped it.
I must give the credit here to my partner, Joel, that really had the vision to look at this deal, because when I looked at the deal at the beginning, I thought it's very expensive at $16 million. But my partner negotiated really a brilliant deal there. And we had to put $100,000 deposit. And after a year, we really were able to sell it to Phil Palevsky for $26 million.
So you made a 900% internal rate of return, or $10 million on that property.
Yes, yes.
And subsequently, a couple of years later, another Israeli by the name of Elad bought it for $42 million.
And he still made money on this deal.
He still made money.
But I think that really we don't necessarily look at it at the calculation of the IRR. We looked at it and we said, this is a building that we will want to own. We really didn't, when we bought this building, we didn't think that we will sell it. So we do not necessarily look for grand slam, because we look for good quality real estate, good foundations.
Tell me about the Ritz Plaza.
Okay, the Ritz Plaza, it's a building on 48th Street that I bought with my partners in December 1996.
And your partner is Joel Seiden.
My partner is Joel Seiden and Case de Depot, the retirement fund of Quebec.
How did my friend, the Israeli, meet the retirement system of Quebec?
You know, I realized that really most of my deals and most of my partners I met when I was on vacation, when I think about it. The Ritz Plaza, we bought the building when we were in Israel. In fact, I was in the pool with my partner from Caisse de Dépôt, André. We were sitting in the pool, and he was inside the water, and we got a phone call from New York about the building. And like we were drinking in the afternoon, the sun was setting, and we decided to make the building, to buy the building.
Now, you bought the building from Lehman Brothers?
With Lehman Brothers for $77 million.
And the building was on 8th Avenue.
The building is on
8th Avenue, off 8th Avenue and 48th Street.
Yes.
500,000 square feet.
Yes, with garage, retail, and 479 apartments.
And you paid $77 million.
We paid $77 million, and today the building, I think, is worth at least $250 to $300 million, and we have financing on this property approximately $120 million on this building.
And over the years, you bought other properties and everything. But you said to me that for a period of time, you really didn't buy a couple of properties. You tried to build the management of your company. And one day, your rabbi was influential in doing something for you to help your real estate business and your life.
My rabbi, Rabbi Pinto, that I met in 2001, have been very influential on my life, not only on my business, but on my personal life. You know, I came from Israel with $600. So once I started to have a little bit money, I said to myself, maybe it's enough. How much money I need? And there was a kind of, not a shame, but a kind of, I don't need anymore. So I was very happy with what I have. And I was building my management company. And I remember I'm first generation in real estate, and I created the company with Joel, and I created all the infrastructure. So we needed to go and to choose the right people that will fit our needs. So when I met my rabbi, and he immediately was quite annoyed at me, because he said that I'm not working hard enough, and you know that the hours that I work. And he said that I need to continue to buy for my personal growth. Forget about the money. Because when a person is not doing things and they think that they are in the same place, they are really going backwards. So in order for me to grow as a human being, as a father, as a husband, as a lover, as a teacher, as an owner, I need to continue to grow. And he really pushed me to the direction to go and to buy more, and not to be ashamed of what I have, and not to feel that this guy doesn't have or this guy doesn't have and suddenly I have, but to enjoy and to give more to charity, and to enjoy and to continue to improve my life on a day-to-day basis.
And you followed his lead, because in 2004 you bought some property, but 2005 you didn't buy some property. You bought close to $500 million of property.
I followed his lead on a daily basis. I ask his advice. Before I buy any property, I ask his advice.
And you always introduce your advisors and friends to him. You want him to sit down. I remember I met with him.
I introduce my partners, my advisors, my friend, because first of all, if he made so much influence on my life, I would like my friends to enjoy a little bit of all the great things that I learned from my rabbi. So I definitely do that. But 2005 was an amazing year for me, and I really hope that 2006 and 2007 will be like that.
And your first acquisition of 2005 was the original, the Penmark, which you renamed
The Olivia.
The Olivia. And the reason you named it the Olivia?
It's my beautiful 7-year daughter. But we looked at other names before, the Isabella and the Whitney, and suddenly, I don't think even I came with the Olivia, somebody for the name, of which, of course, I love the name. And I must tell you that it's quite funny. People call it Olivia today, but you have to see my daughter, because the way she is and the way she speaks about the building, and if somebody goes to the city, she tells the friend, "Are you going to see my building? Did you see my building?" So it's
and your building is right adjacent to the new station over there.
Yes, yes.
So that was the first building. You paid $240 million for that.
We paid for $240 million. It was a very complicated deal. We needed to close it in 2-3 months, and we needed over $100 million of equity. And the deal was never on the market. So it was a great acquisition for my team.
And then after that, then you bought Stonehenge West?
Stonehenge West, yes, that was, it's a great complex on 97, 418 units. Again, a very, very complicated deal, of which we named it Stonehenge Village, and because it's like a village. And we have tremendous ideas how to improve it and to create a wonderful environment for the tenants.
And the last acquisition of the year was what we call the Platinum Collection.
Of which I'm still shocked. And I wake up every morning, and when I drive to the city, I make sure to go to these properties, because these are on Park Avenue.
Park Avenue. You see, you started in 1986 on Park Avenue, and in 2005, you ended
on Park
Avenue.
But for me, it was an amazing Park Avenue, because I never in my life dreamed to own buildings on Park Avenue. And here to have 2 buildings on Park and 82nd Street, it's unbelievable.
So I'd say that over the past 20 years, you've truly been a builder of New York. You've taken from nothing to own 2,000 apartments, to give back to the community, and really make New York. Because as you said to me, you're not a foreigner, you're a New Yorker.
Oh, absolutely. But when I hear you, I get a little bit scared, because I don't wake up in the morning and look at myself as a builder or how many units I have, because if I'll do that, I will never wake up. But I think that I am definitely a New Yorker. I enjoy living here, and every day it's like a new beginning for me.
Ofer, I thank you for being my guest today on Building New York.
Thank you very much.
Funding for Building New York was provided by First American Title Insurance Company of New York.